Welcome back, Dynasty lovers, to another episode of the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Adrian, with my co-host,
Scott Martin.
So today we got the best group of all, the tight ends. Scotty loves them. I do not.
You hate scouting tight ends every year.
How many times did I tell you that I hate scouting tight ends? I must have texted you at least
every
20 times.
day.
Like,
yeah.
Did I ever say I hate scouting tight ends? So yeah, I do not enjoy scouting tight ends. Trying to find where the guy's at half the time is a real pain in the butt. And then and the usage, it's just tough to see the blocking. It's tough to see some games they're not catching much passes. Some of these guys, they get targeted a ton. Some of these guys get targeted maybe 3 times all year. That's at you, Jeremy Ruckert.
The reason you draft tight ends, the reason you scout tight ends, is because you're going to find these super athletic guys that have the ability to show that high-end potential, and no one's going to know about them. You can get them early and stash them. And to be honest, every year after the rookie draft, I go grab 2 or 3 tight ends that I liked from the film, because some of them don't get great landing spots, and no one will draft them. I mean, like last year they were drafting Tommy Tremble. There was one draft he went in the 2nd round, and his film was not that fans. Of a fantasy relevant tight end.
Yeah, he's a great football player, but he's not a fantasy tight end.
Yep. All that being said, last year's class really left a sour taste in your mouth because there was almost no talent except for the top, and this class is super deep comparatively speaking. But the thing is, there's a lot of good NFL tight ends in this class, and you're going to see a lot of teams sort of wait a little bit later to take these guys, and you're going to see teams that there's a lot of guys you have sort of middle of the board or even sort of in that second tier that get good landing spots. So I think there's going to be quite a few draftable tight ends in this mix. It's just you're going to probably want to take them more in the 4th round if you can get them to there, or the late 3rd. And you're gonna get good value. So I think there's some good players here, and I'm excited for it.
So first off, Austin Allen, Nebraska, 6'8", big dude, 253, 9.5-inch hands. Ran a 4.83 40, 34-inch vertical, 121-inch broad jump, and I got a 7 flat 3 cone.
Yeah, so 27th percentile 40. 76th percentile 3 cone, 66th percentile vertical, 81st percentile broad jump. And at his pro day, he put up a dismal 8 reps on the bench, which is 0 percentile.
Well, when you're 6'8" and 253, you're pretty thin. And he got long arms, so it makes it more difficult to bench. But yeah, 0 percentile is not what we call good. And I saw that in his blocking ability. He's my lowest graded tight end. Just I'm starting off here. He's at the bottom of the barrel then, and it's by a good margin. And he is just, they line him up as an H-back. They line him up outside. They line him up in line then. But as far as his blocking, he's not going to block anybody. There's 2 guys at times I saw in film where he has to block, and he splits them and misses on both of them.
For his size, I expected him to be a worse blocker. So he's a little above average. He's not great, but he's not a punisher. Yeah, our blocking grades are going to be way different on a lot of these guys, I think.
Yeah, well, it depends on the games that you watch. Then it depends on what you're looking for. Like, is it run blocking? Is it pass blocking? A lot of these tight ends didn't do a lot of pass blocking, so that was tough to sort of grade. There's more of that run blocking skills that we're seeing. But as far as Austin, I wasn't impressed. Then he's a tall guy, but he's not physical. Limited yards after catch. Then he's not fast. Has I would say very good hands. Then he only had 1 drop in 2021, but his release at the line, he's slow, lumbering the release. He has limited separation. Then, and it's just and then his contested catch. I think he's tall and can go up and get it, but he had limited usage in the red zone. So I'm not sure that Nebraska either didn't take advantage of that or he's not as good as I would expect with being that 6'8" frame. Then you think he'd be a red zone monster. He only had 2 touchdowns in 2021 with 602 yards on 36 catches.
Yeah, so I mean, I saw a lot of the similar stuff. I don't think he's as poor of a blocker as you make him out to be, but it doesn't really matter. He was my lowest graded tight end too. His release off the line is definitely below average, no doubt about that. He looks like he's running around in center blocks, and he has probably the worst separation in the class. He has literally 1 speed off the ball, and it's really slow. So definitely limited there. There are some good things about him. I mean, you hit on that. He only had 2 career drops, and even balls that are like short throws that are coming at him quick, he just sort of absorbs the ball. So his hands are really, really good. He caught 79% of the passes thrown his way. Only problem was he just didn't have a lot of passes thrown his way. And you got a guy that he'll catch the ball in the middle. I mean, it's honestly like he's playing sort of on air. He just he's completely undeterred by safeties bearing down, and he just will catch the ball, no problem. So, I mean, he's a good little safety blanket, but if he's that good of a safety blanket and he's super tall and he has great hands, why didn't he have more than 3 career touchdowns in the red zone? And you said that. Why didn't they use him more that way? So I don't know that there's any upside here. He's somebody that's going to be at the bottom of my board, and I'm not really interested in drafting. He's not going to make anybody miss. He's slow, so he's just he's a body. That's about it.
Okay, next on the list, Grant Calcaterra, SMU. Spent his first 3 years in Oklahoma. Actually dealt with concussion issues then and was out of football, and then decided to come back in 2021.
Yeah, nearly medically retired.
Yeah, I think he was retired for a year there, and he said, I'll give another try here. But he's 6'4", only 241 pounds, 10-inch hands. And as far as what I have here from the combine is a 4.62 40 and did 20 reps on the bench.
So that's 81st percentile 40, 56th percentile for the reps on the bench, and he didn't do any more testing at his pro day. That was released anyways.
Yeah, and as far as his stats in 2021, 38 receptions for 465 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I'll let you take the lead on Grant here. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are throwing out a little bit of hype here. Overall, I'm not super impressed. He's not a guy that really excites me. He starts that sort of group of players I'm not going to draft. But he does some things well. He obviously that 40 shows up on tape. He's definitely faster than you'd expect him to be. It just off the ball. It's not that his release is bad. It's just it takes him at the 3rd step he gets up to speed. So and you see that with the route running. So he's very average at separating, and he doesn't come back to the ball sometimes, and the ball just sort of doesn't get to him, which I think hurt his production. But he's an okay route runner. But the thing that you need to see, and you can always tell these guys that don't separate, especially that are tight ends, all they do is push. And this guy pushes all the time. I don't know how he didn't get pass interference calls more than he did. He's a guy that he's not going to really be good with the contested catch. He can go up and get the ball, at times, but he's not a guy that's going to really bully you across the middle and snag balls. And his ball skills were just barely a little above average. He's not going to offer you much yards after the catch. And, worse, he's not a very good blocker. As a run blocker, he was I don't know if it was just more technique or more effort, but he whiffed a lot. And I thought he pass protected okay, but man, as a run blocker, he's not an inline guy at all. So I don't know where he's going to sort of fit this skill set. Maybe in sort of I don't know. He's got so many holes in bad spots. He's not a prospect that you can really fill a role, in my opinion.
I agree with everything you said there. And I think his blocking got better at the second level, but he's not an inline blocker. He gets destroyed. He's too small. He has to put on more weight or bulk up then. And then the other thing you sort of highlighted on was his contested catches. He's a body catcher. He's not one of these guys that goes up and plucks it out of the air with his hands. And that really affects your contested catches. You can't go up and get the ball if you're trying to catch it with your body and someone's coming into the back of you trying to knock that ball out. So,
he only had 2 drops, but I mean, like you said, he doesn't catch. Not all that's. He doesn't catch the ball with his hands. That's for sure.
Yes, a lot of these other guys would make those. What don't count as drops, count as like a broken up pass. All these other guys would make that catch because they're catching with their hands. Then
and he only caught 61% of his targets.
And then his, like I said, with his release is nothing special. Then and he lines up mostly as an outside. Lines up more in the slot than anything. And like I said, he's lower on my board here as well. Then too, but nothing. I'm not going to go out actively pursuing this guy, but good for him coming back to football. And with all that concussion history, he probably should.
He's probably off a lot of boards with that, and rightfully so. He was a 63 for me. He's kind of mid pack.
Yeah, that 63. That's low end for me then. But moving on to the next guy, Derrick Deese Jr., San Jose State. So I got him at 6'4", 235. I was able to find like the true weight out there. I don't know if
he did have a so at the Shrine Bowl he weighed in at, or he was 6'3", 244 with 10 and a quarter inch hands.
And then I think if you got these numbers too from his pro day, ran a 4.93, 31-inch vertical, 120-inch broad jump, and 18 reps on the bench. Then he was not invited to the combine.
So that was an 11th percentile 40, 30th percentile vertical, 76th percentile broad jump, and 39th percentile bench press. Mm-hmm. The thing that you need to know is he did come back and do a pro day, but I think one of the reasons he didn't test at the combine is he had an ankle injury at the Shrine Bowl. So I'm wondering if that wasn't, maybe these numbers aren't as bad, because I thought he was a little better on tape than what some of these numbers suggest. But that's at least something to keep in mind. But definitely not a good performance.
He looked faster on film then. But as far as his 2021 production was very good. 47 catches, 730 yards, and 4 touchdowns then. I don't – for Derrick Deese, I don't love him. I don't hate him. He sort of falls in that middle there. I think he's more of that receiving tight end you're looking for. Lots going to depend on his landing spot. I think he has good ball tracking skills. He has very good body control. He had 4 drops in 2021, but I thought he had actually strong hands, and I thought he had a large catch radius then too. So I don't know who was great in this, but as far as the drops, but I thought he was one of the better catchers in the class, and maybe I didn't see those drops as much.
Well, he had 83 targets, so that's a pretty good catch.
So I guess from the ratio standpoint, it's good then. And then his, I didn't think he was the best off the line. I don't think he was susceptible to being jammed, but I didn't see that a lot anywhere in the film then. And then his routes weren't very crisp then, so I think he's some refining needed there then too. And like I said, his top end speed was better, but I don't think he has elite speed then. And then his sort of yak, he doesn't get much unless he's wide open then. He doesn't have like an arsenal of moves or tackle breaking ability then. So like I said, it's a guy you keep on as far as landing spot, but I'm not. He's more of that maybe 5th round based on landing spot if it's good.
Yeah, these are the type of guys you watch the film for, because his film looks pretty good, and he has traits that teams will draft him for. So I would be surprised if he's not drafted. So we'll see what happens. But all that being said, it's still in the middle of my board. He came in at a 69 for me.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Oh, but I saw some of the similar things. So his release off the line, overall, his release off the line is average. You will actually see him draw some safety help sometimes, which is a little surprising. But his route running, he's a definite mismatch for linebackers. He has sort of some wide receiver skills. So you'll see him have these little stutter steps and fakes, and sort of, so he's an okay route runner. He doesn't separate that good. So if he had a 3-cone, I would have expected it to have not been the greatest. But he's got very sure hands. Like you said, I thought he had some of the best hands in the class, and his contested catch ability is superb. He will absolutely catch the ball over the middle, and it doesn't matter. He can get popped. He got his helmet knocked off once. Doesn't matter. He'll catch it.
Yeah, he gets hit hard, and then he holds onto that ball. Then. Yep. So he's very good from that standpoint.
Yeah, yes. And I thought he actually showed plus ball skills. I thought he could really track the ball well. You saw him catch some sort of deep balls over the shoulder, sort of in that little past the second level. And he has superb body control. He adjusted to balls down in the dirt. There was one ball that was thrown like 5 yards underthrown, and he went down and got it. Real surprising. And he's super physical. So I think that's going to be something teams are going to look for. I thought he was a demon of a run blocker. I mean, they literally ran behind him almost every play, and he excelled in that regard. I thought he was a good pass blocker too. It's just he's got some traits that make him good in a certain landing spot. So you just have to see where he ends up. But I didn't see 4.93 speed. I saw like 4.7. I didn't think he was slow at all. It's just he's got to have the right scheme for him to have the production. But he's got traits teams are going to like, and he's somebody to see where he lands, because he's a good little 5th round flyer or waiver wire.
Yeah, and like I said, his blocking. I think what I saw from the San Jose State offense, they actually used him more to seal the backside then on the run plays, with having his as a move tight end and go in motion. So that's something that could be done.
Yeah, he's the closest thing to Tommy Trimble in this class.
Yeah, but he may be more of an H-back just based on his size as opposed to a tight end.
I could see that.
You're going to hear us say this 1,000 times in all these episodes. landing spot depended. Next up, Greg Dulcich out of UCLA, 6'4", 243, 9 and 7/8 inch hands then. And at the combine, he had a 4.6 940, a 34-inch vertical, 122-inch broad jump, 7.05 3-cone, and 16 reps on the bench. So I'm glad someone in this tight end class decided to do all the drills, because very few of them had true combine numbers, which is frustrating when you're trying to scout them. But what were his percentiles?
67th percentile 40, 71st percentile 3-cone, 66th percentile vertical jump, and 85th percentile broad jump. Only 15th percentile bench.
And the last 2 years, so his production was pretty good. So in 2020 had 26 catches, 517 yards, and 5 touchdowns. In 2021, 42 catches for 725 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I start off with Deese. Start us off with Dulcich.
Yeah, Dulcich is a receiver playing tight end pretty much. He definitely has no role in the NFL as an inline blocker. His technique's poor. He gets literally pancaked at times, and he's pretty below average in both as a run blocker and definitely as a pass blocker. So he's gonna be split out. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's how they use him for the most part. And he has some good traits, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, like if he went to somewhere, let's say Arizona, where he was the guy and he was getting, able to sort of have this high passing volume, he's a good tight end to have. But so he had fairly quick release off the ball. He can get rerouted and pushed around a little bit, but pretty solid. His route running, he has plus separation. He's one of the best separators in the class. Really good quick cuts in sort of the intermediate area, and he seems to always put linebackers in a mismatch. He can sort of attack at all 3 levels. So, like Derrick Deese, for some reason, didn't really operate well underneath. He sort of operated well on the sort of the second level and maybe a little in the back level. But Greg Dulcich can attack and run routes at all levels. So he's a really good route runner. His hands were pretty solid. You don't see a lot of off-target catches that show like special ball skills, but he only had 4 drops on 64 targets, and he looked like he had good hands. His contested catch ability is above average, and he had this one pass play where he sort of tracked the ball and caught it over his shoulder like Willie Mays. It was pretty impressive. So I think he has some good wide receiver skills in him. He's definitely got plus ability after the catch, which is appealing from a fantasy standpoint. And he had 7 yards, after the catch average, so really nice. And he's a little elusive to be a tight end. Good short area speed and quickness, especially out of cuts. So I like him sort of overall as a receiver, just not overall as a tight end. There's people that love this guy, think he's ready to play today, and some of the big NFL scouts are really hyping this guy up as the top guy in the class, and I don't know, I didn't leave the film thinking he was very complete. He came in at a 71 for me, so he's my 4th tight end, but I'm not. We'll see where he goes. I think he has upside as a fantasy tight end, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have him as my 5th tight end. I saw a lot of the same things you saw. I think he's okay at run blocking, but definitely not a big asset from that standpoint. He definitely needs to get stronger. And then when he's outside, he is susceptible to being thrown off his line, then susceptible to jamming then too. So needs to work on that to be that true receiving threat then. But he definitely is a receiving tight end, and he's a hands catcher. Had 4 drops, but had a decent amount of targets then, and very good body control, good at tracking the ball. I think I agree with you. He has yak potential, and he will break tackles. A lot of these tight ends, they go down pretty easy for their sizes. So I didn't see much of that T.J. Hawkinson tackle breaking ability in this class, but he has some of that. But yeah, I think it's going to be this is a guy that could offer fantasy potential just based on his receiving alone. And I think a good comp for him is actually his a former UCLA Bruin. I think he's like that Devin Asiasi. I think they're using a very similar way. More of that pass-catching tight end as opposed to that inline blocker then.
Yeah, I think he's more athletic and offers more receiving upside than Asiasi, but
but I think they're both going to be they're both going to be. I think he's going to be a 3rd-round selection, just like Asiasi, and he could get buried like Asiasi by them, like the Patriots did when they drafted 2 tight ends and then signed 2 tight ends the following year to big contracts. Or he could have a role then. Like I said, you'll hear us say it over and over again. Landing spot potential.
Yeah, well, this is the first guy that I guarantee you he's drafted by the 3rd round. I'll be shocked if he's not. He's going to be a 3rd-round pick. He'll get the draft capital.
Yeah, I don't think he's good enough to be a 2nd-round pick based on what I saw. But I think he's probably going to get a 3rd-round pick. And there's always a lot of tight ends that go in the 3rd round just based on potential, because the whole league is tight end needy. But another guy that I see potential in, and that's Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin. So he's 6'5", 250 pounds, 9.5 inch hands. Then at the combine, he had a 4.81 40, a 31.5 inch vertical, 118 inch broad jump, and 7.03 second 3 cone, and 15 reps on the bench then.
So his 40 was 33rd percentile. His vertical was 36th percentile. Broad jump 64th. 3 cone 72nd. And only 9th percentile with 15 reps on the bench. So at his pro day, he picked up his 40. It was 4.77, 44th percentile. And then he picked up his vertical too. It was 34.5 inches, which was 71st percentile.
And then he was a 4-year starter at Wisconsin. He had 456 yards, 2018, 407, 2019, 305 in 2020, and then 450 yards in 2021. And so he's more of that traditional inline tight end. At least that's the way they used him at Wisconsin. And I think he would actually have been better served in a different offense. Because let's say he's not the necessarily the strongest guy, and we'll need to bulk up. But it does give you some insight as far as to his blocking ability. I think he's an okay run blocker, but the defense ends are going to give him trouble then. And the best attribute I saw with him was his hands. His hands were fantastic. They were. He could, if the ball got to him, he was catching it. He only had 1 drop in 2021, and he got hit a lot of times hard as the ball was getting there, and was just hold on to that ball. So I don't know why they didn't use him more in the red zone. He only had 3 touchdowns in 2021,
Yeah,
but
I
he can
agree.
be
Yeah.
an absolute red zone monster for how good he is as far as that goes. And he's good at contested catches when he's given the opportunity. I think his ball tracking is good. I think he has good body control. And his yak potential, over half his yards were yards after the catch then in 2021. So I think he has that potential. He's not the fastest guy, but he has adequate enough speed to have that potential. So like I said, I think he's a more well-rounded tight end that maybe seen the field earlier, and a guy that could offer fantasy potential in that year 2, year 3 range if he's in the right spot. But I like Jake Ferguson, and I have him 1 point ahead of Dulcich then at a 71.
Yeah, I guess we're not too far off. It's just a lot of these guys are real close on grade for me. He came in at 68, but I see a lot of things that I like. And there's one thing for sure. This dude is an NFL player. Like, he is the type of player that NFL teams will want. He's going to be an excellent inline blocker. He's sort of ready to play today. He's not sort of that heat-seeking missile like Tommy Trimble, but he can get the job done. His wide receiver traits. So his release off the ball is average. I thought that his route tree is definitely undeveloped. He does most of his work sort of underneath, and then they run screens for him. So I think that some of that could be a little better. Maybe some's hidden in the offense. I don't know. But you mentioned the excellent hands. I mean, one of the top in the class for sure. He had a one-hand grab sort of way away from his body that looked special. So that was cool. And his contested catch ability, definite plus ability in traffic. I saw that too. He catches almost everything. And he really, really excels underneath. So again, I don't know why this guy didn't have 15 touchdowns in the red zone, because he's perfect. It's his perfect role. So he tracks the ball a little above average. Body control's a little above average. And he offers that yak ability. He is obviously, when you're running screens for him, he's got some ability. He's not really one of those sort of juke and make you miss guys, but he's just sort of a creative runner, and he breaks tackles. So for this tight end class, to have 12 missed tackles for us is pretty good, especially with the volume that he got. So he's a guy, I thought he was actually a little faster on film than his 4.77. But he's a guy that he gets a good landing spot. I definitely think he's an interesting prospect.
Yep. Now moving on to a prospect I like a lot then, and we actually did our quarterbacks and running backs first, so I got to scout his teammates in Purdy and Breece Hall, and this guy popped on the film even with those guys as well. So that's Charlie Kolar out of Iowa State then. He's 6 foot 6.5 inches, 251 pounds, 10-inch hands, and I think these are pro day numbers. He didn't participate in the combine as far as the timed events then, but he had a 4.67 40, 35.5 inch vertical, 120 inch broad jump, and then 6.98 3-cone.
So 72nd 40, 78th percentile 3-cone. 78th percentile vertical, 76th percentile broad jump.
And then he's very productive the last 3 years. 679 yards in 2019. 2020 had 591 yards. And then this past year, 62 catches for 756 yards and 6 touchdowns. So very good. And he is a very good receiving tight end then. And he's another guy that has very strong hands then. He's very good at shielding the defender with his large frame then, and creating that sort of safety net for his quarterback. So he was used a lot to bail out Purdy there at Iowa State then. And his routes actually had some decent separation on them. I wouldn't say great, but he was able to sort of get a little bit of a space there at times then. His release, I wish he was a little bit faster off the line then, but he's a bigger dude then, as I said. And then he has wonderful red zone potential. Like I'm surprised that he only had 6 touchdowns, but I think that's because Breece Hall ran the ball in every time they were close. but definitely some red zone potential. And he had 232 yards after catch. Then I don't think he has much as far as like wiggle or necessarily bulldozer potential, but he can use his speed to get that extra yardage then. And I think his top end speed is closer to the pinnacle of this class. Then it's not blazing, but he's definitely offers that there. As far as his blocking, he's not asked to do that much. When he's asked to do it, he's okay. But I think he shows traits that can develop that in the NFL, and then he will get better in the NFL as time goes on. Then, but Charlie Kolar is my number 2 tight end in this group, and like I said, I'm very interested in obtaining him on my teams. Then,
yeah, love this guy. He ended up as my number 2 tight end too, but he's got quick feet, plush release off the ball. He is, I thought, was the best route runner in the class. The thing that he does super well is speed variation. It's elite. I mean, he varies his speed so well, and when you mix that with his sort of quick cutting ability, it just makes him create more separation. So he runs better routes than some of these receivers that we've scouted, and he runs a very good variety of routes. So he lined up outside, and he has it's not a polished route tree, but it's pretty advanced, especially for the class. And you mix that with elite soft hands that catch everything. I mean, 2 drops on 95 targets is excellent. And he's got great contested catch ability. He caught almost 67% of his contested catches, 18 out of 27 opportunities. And he catches everything over the middle. He can track the ball over the shoulder. He can go up and high point the ball. And he's got plus body control. He routinely gets that back shoulder throw catch. So very good upside there. He not going to break a lot of tackles and not going to sort of get you a lot of yards after the catch. But, I mean, this is a very interesting guy. I don't know that he's like a Travis Kelce mold, but he's like maybe like a Mark Andrews mold, maybe something like that. I really like this guy, and I thought his speed was really, really good too. So yeah, 4.67 is really good 40, and that shows up on tape. And he's not a liability as a blocker either, that's for sure. I thought he was, he could use some better aggression sort of at the point of attack, but he's a fairly good blocker, so he's complete. He's somebody I expect to go in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft, and he's somebody that I expect to get a good landing spot and have some hopefully early production. I love Charlie Kolar.
Yeah, definitely a name to watch then. And like I said, I didn't know much about him until I got into the scouting process here, and like I said, he popped on other people's film. That's always a good thing for me. Like I remember, as far as the Alabama film, we scouted a lot of Alabama guys, but the guys that popped on there were Najee Harris and Devontae Smith when we were scouting Hurts and the 2 wide receivers, Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. So guys that pop, I always write them down, go back to them, and then check them out. And Charlie Kolar is one of those guys. So yeah, definitely a guy that if the right landing spot, is going to be a fantasy asset then. Okay, so next up, our final guy here for this episode is Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. So he's 6 foot 4.5 inches, 245 pounds, 10-inch hands. He only did the vertical at the combine, which was 36 inches. I'm not sure if you have any other numbers.
Yes, he ran a 4.8 40, 35th percentile, 124-inch broad jump, 90th percentile, 7.33 3-cone, 19th percentile, and had 15 reps on the bench, which is 9th percentile.
And then as far as production, good production the last 3 years, but really stepped it up to a new level in 2021. Had 59 catches for 912 yards and 12 touchdowns. So excellent production there. So what do you? I had a tough time determining if I like this guy or not. But I'll let you start him off. And what do you think of Mr. Likely?
Yeah, so not sure why, but I had a tough time with him too. I don't know if it's because of inconsistency or I don't know what it is. I came away liking him, but I expected to likely him more.
Oh, man.
Poor
That's bad.
dad joke.
That's
It was a
bad.
dad joke. His release off the line is a little above average. He's not super physical, but it's okay. His route running is it's a little above average, but he's got tight hips, so he does most of his damage sort of with the seam route and out routes because he doesn't create the most separation with his routes, but he just finds ways to get open. He's not a super sharp route runner. Maybe some of that can be cleaned up, but he just gets open. And when plays break down, he finds the open hole and he's there. And that's where a lot of his production comes from. His hands were great. Only one drop on 77 targets. He caught almost 77% of the targets thrown his way. And now there are times he has a couple double catches, so I didn't give him a top score, even though he looked like he deserved it at times. But his hands I thought were very solid. He's just okay contested catch, like average. There's times the ball gets dislodged, and it's probably because he's 245, so he could add some weight too. But he has some plus wide receiver skills as far as ball skills. He tracks the ball very well. He gets the ball at the highest point. His body control is excellent. He can definitely, catch that sort of back shoulder throw and adjust his body in the air. And he has absolute yak potential. And I mean, I thought he was faster than 4.8. I mean, how in the world are you breaking 95-yard touchdown catches with only 4.8 speed? I know he's at coastal, but still, I thought he was faster. I mean, 4.7 at a minimum. And so I thought his speed was a little better than what he actually ran, but his blocking ability is it's solid. It's just not good. He's not a finisher. I'd like to see him sort of punish people, but he gets the job done. So he's a guy that we'll see what happens in the draft, but he's got some skills that are attractive. He's just not complete. So he had a 69 for me.
Yeah, I had him at a 68. And I agree with you. His top end speed is better on film than at 4.8 that he did his pro day. Yeah, you said he had a 99-yard touchdown with Arkansas State then, and also had a 64-yard touchdown in that game where he went absolutely nuts then. And he had another touchdown where he actually beat the guys to the edge then as well. But I think he was playing at a lighter weight during the season and then added weight here after the season. So
yeah, they put him at 240. Usually teams will fluff up that weight number a little bit when they put it down there. I would not be surprised if he was 230 or less.
Yeah, I think that's so he added weight, but I don't know if it was a good weight as far as the potential going forward. But I think he said it perfectly. He's sort of a guy with a lot of traits and potential that NFL teams are going to like then, but I don't know if it translates to the NFL. I think he's going to be like that Josh Oliver third-round pick, but really do nothing in the NFL. Because I know you said you liked his catching. He only had one drop, which is great, but he's a body catcher, and that really hurt his. His
I understand
catches.
what you're saying there, but when you watch him at the combine, he had some of the most natural, sure hands of anybody that was doing that sort of gauntlet drill. So he impressed me. So we'll see.
See, but why didn't he do that in the game? Like he more often than not was catching with his body, and then that allowed people to dislodge it. And that's the main thing I had with him. If he was a hands catcher, his score would be a lot better. Like his hands would go up, his catches would go up. And then he would probably be in that second tier or second or third tier as opposed to in this fourth tier then.
I see him having that ability. So,
like I said, I'm not sure if he can develop the hands then, sort of as Dawson Knox has in the NFL. There's potential there, but like I said, and the other thing is this good weight or is this bad weight? that we're seeing here, and that's going to be the other thing that to see. But I think he's going to be, just based on this potential or see on this film, he's going to be a third, fourth round pick in the NFL draft. Then, but we'll have to see how that translates. But I can see him flaming out within a few years.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a draft that I don't take him late. If he is in the fourth, fifth round, good prospect.
Yeah, and it's a guy that it would be good to have on your taxi squad for a few years and see what happens then. But it's not a bad fourth, fifth round pick. But like I said, I could see him doing something, and I could see him being out of the league in 2 years. It's that range of possibilities then. Yeah, so that's all we have for the first show here. We'll cover the next group, or the final group of the tight ends, led by Trey McBride out of Colorado State. But also make sure to check out the website at thedynastyinterview.com. The profiles will be going up shortly. We have the quarterback profiles up there. You can check out all the film on these guys too on YouTube. Just subscribe to the Dynasty Interview Film Room. Then a lot of good stuff there, and hit us up on Twitter at the DYN Interview with any questions, comments, thoughts. Interested to hear your opinions as well then too. So this is Joseph Adrian signing off.
And this is Scott Martin, and you just listened to the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast.